The October sun poured its golden light through the tall windows of the Winters mansion, creating elongated shadows on the polished wooden floor. Alexandra watched his daughter Clara, who was distractedly playing with her dolls on the Persian rug in the living room. Her light brown curls reflected the evening light, reminding him painfully of Catherine, his late wife. "Daddy, look, the princess is ready for the ball," exclaimed Clara, holding up a porcelain doll dressed in a delicate blue dress. Her green eyes, identical to her mother's, shone with that innocence that Alexandra fought daily to preserve. "You look beautiful, my love," he replied, taking a seat next to his daughter on the carpet. At 42, Alexandre Winters had built an empire in the technology business, but his greatest treasure was the little 7-year-old girl who held his hand on stormy nights. The sound of high heels echoed down the marble corridor, announcing Diana's arrival. She appeared in the doorway like a vision in red, her tight dress accentuating every curve of her slender body. "Darling, are you ready for the charity dinner?" she asked in her melodious voice, adjusting a diamond earring. Alexandra checked his watch. "Of course, I just need to change." He turned to Clara, who had stopped playing and was now watching Diana with an expression he couldn't decipher. "Mrs. Martinez is already on her way to stay with you, princess." Diana approached Clara, her heels marking each step with military precision. "How about a goodnight kiss from your new mommy?" She leaned in to kiss the girl, her French perfume filling the air. Clara pulled back imperceptibly, but Alexandra noticed. It was a subtle movement that had been repeated over the last few weeks, since the wedding. Something in his chest contracted, but he pushed the uncomfortable sensation away. Diana was perfect, attentive, loving, understanding. Clara just needed time to adjust. "I'll get ready," he announced, getting up. On the way to his room, fragments of memory assaulted him. His first meeting with Diana in an art gallery, her enigmatic smile as they discussed Monet, the way she seemed to fill the void Catherine had left. 6 months of dating, an intimate marriage, and now they were a family. As he adjusted his bow tie in front of the mirror, he heard voices coming from the hallway. Diana was talking on the phone, her voice an urgent whisper that he could barely make out. "I need more time." "No, he doesn't suspect. The girl is the problem. But I'll sort it out." Alexandra froze, his tie forgotten between his fingers. Something in Diana's voice sounded different, harder, colder. He shook his head, pushing away intrusive thoughts. The stress of work was affecting her mind. The doorbell rang, announcing the arrival of Mrs. Martinez. The 60-year-old housekeeper, who had looked after Clara since she was a baby, was a constant and comforting presence in the house. Alexandra came downstairs, adjusting the cuffs of his shirt. "Good evening, Mr. Winters," greeted the lady with her soft Hispanic accent. "Don't worry, I'll take good care of the little one." Diana was already waiting for him in the foyer, her party bag perfectly matching her dress. "Shall we go, darling? We don't want to be late." Clara ran to hug her father, her small arms squeezing him with unusual strength. "Come back soon, Daddy," she murmured against his chest. "Of course I will, princess. Be good to Mrs. Martinez." In the car, Diana was talking about the guests at the event, but Alexander found himself thinking about Clara's expression. Was there something in her eyes? Fear? Concern? No, he was imagining things. Diana was a gift from fate, a second chance at happiness. The driver maneuvered the Mercedes into the driveway of the mansion. Alexandra looked through the rearview mirror, seeing Clara waving from her bedroom window. The light from the bedroom projected her small silhouette against the glass, a solitary figure in the imposing house. Diana intertwined her fingers with his. "Is everything all right, darling? You seem distant." "Just tired," he replied, forcing a smile. But as the car glided through the night, a restlessness settled in his chest, that nagging feeling that something important was slipping away from his perception, like a shadow fleeing the light. Sunday afternoon began like so many others at the Winters mansion. Alexandra watched Clara through the window of his study as she played in the garden with her favorite stuffed rabbit. Diana had gone out for a charity lunch, as she had been doing with increasing frequency in recent months. The soft sound of footsteps interrupted her thoughts. Mrs. Martinez entered with a cup of coffee. "Mr. Winters," she began, hesitantly. "Can I say something delicate?" Alexandra turned in his chair, noticing the worried expression on the housekeeper's wrinkled face. "Of course. Maria, what's wrong?" "It's about Pequeña." She paused, nervously adjusting her apron. She's been different, quieter, especially when Lady Diana is at home. Before Alexandra could reply, Clara burst into the office, her curls ruffled by the wind. "Daddy, come and play with me." She stopped at the sight of Mrs. Martinez, who discreetly withdrew after a brief curtsy. "Of course, Princess," smiled Alexandra, getting up. "What do you want to do? Can we go to my room? I want to show you something." In Clara's room, decorated in soft shades of lilac and white, Alexandra sat on the edge of the bed while his daughter rummaged through her toy box. The room still retained elements that Catherine had chosen: the star mobile on the ceiling, the curtains with little embroidered butterflies. "Daddy," Clara began, her voice dropping to almost a whisper, "can I tell you a secret?" "Always, my love. You can tell me anything." Clara hugged her stuffed rabbit tightly as if seeking courage. "Diana, she's not what you think." Alexandra felt his heart race. "What do you mean, darling?" "She's different when you're not around. Last night, after you left for work late, she came into my room." Clara shivered slightly. "She said that if I told you anything, something bad might happen to Mr. Whiskers." She squeezed the rabbit even tighter. "Clara, are you sure? This is very serious?" Alexandra tried to keep his voice calm, even though his world was starting to spin. "She broke my music box, Dad, the one Mom gave me." Tears began to roll down the girl's face. "She said it was an accident, but I saw her throw it on the floor and then—" Clara hesitated. "Go on, Princess, I'm here. She said that no one would believe me, that you'd get angry if I said anything." Clara sobbed. "She said you were going to send me to a boarding school far away, like she did to Hootie, Clara." But before Clara could answer, they heard the sound of the front door opening. Diana had returned. Clara immediately fell silent, her eyes wide with fear. "Alexandra, are you home?" Diana's melodious voice echoed down the corridor. "I'm in Clara's room," he replied, noticing how his daughter cringed at the sound of that voice. Diana appeared in the doorway, radiant in her emerald green dress. "Ah, what a lovely scene. Father and daughter having a special moment." Her smile was perfect, but something in her eyes made Alexander wince. "Just playing around a bit," he replied, trying to keep his voice casual. "How was lunch?" "Wonderful. We raised a significant amount for the needy children." Diana approached Clara, who instinctively moved closer to her father. "Darling, why are you crying? Has something happened?" "No, nothing," mumbled Clara, quickly wiping away her tears. "You were telling me about the broken music box," said Alexandra, watching Diana's reaction carefully. For a moment, so brief that Alexander almost missed it, something dark flashed across Diana's face. "Oh yes, what a terrible accident. I felt terrible. But I've already ordered a new one, even prettier. Haven't you, Clara?" Clara just nodded, her eyes fixed on the floor. "Actually," Diana continued, "I bought it today. It's in the car. I'll get it for you." When Diana left, Alexandra noticed that Clara was trembling. "It's all right, Princess. You can tell me anything, always." "I'm scared, Daddy," Clara whispered. "She's not who you think she is." The sound of Diana's heels returning down the corridor silenced Clara again. Alexandra felt a chill run down his spine as he noticed the pattern, his vibrant, communicative daughter turning into a frightened, silent child in the presence of her stepmother. Diana entered holding an elaborate golden music box. "Look at that, darling. Isn't it beautiful? Much prettier than the old one, don't you think?" Alexandra observed the scene with new eyes. Diana's smile, once charming, now looked like a mask. Clara's words echoed in his mind, mixed with the fragment of a telephone conversation he had overheard a few days earlier. That night, after putting Clara to bed, Alexandra lay awake in his study, mentally going over the last few months. Small incidents, subtle changes in Clara's behavior, enigmatic comments from Mrs. Martinez. It was all beginning to form a disturbing pattern. His phone vibrated with a message from Diana. "Coming to bed, darling?" Alexandra looked at the photo of Catherine on his desk, her green eyes, so similar to Clara's, seeming to implore him to see the truth. Something was very wrong at home, and he needed to find out what it was before it was too late. The morning began with a seemingly normal routine at the Winters mansion. Alexander, sitting at the coffee table, watched over the newspaper as Diana prepared Clara's cereal with an almost theatrical dedication. "More milk, dear?" asked Diana, her impish smile contrasting with Clara's wary eyes. "No, thank you," replied the girl in a low voice, unenthusiastically stirring the cereal in her bowl. Alexandra put down the newspaper, his mind still processing the previous day's conversation. He had been up all night, alternating between doubts and theories. As a man used to making important business decisions, he felt lost at the possibility of having made such a serious error of judgment. "Darling, don't forget that we have dinner with the Reynolds tonight," reminded Diana, sitting down with her cup of tea. "Patricia is looking forward to showing us her new art collection." "That won't do today," Alexander replied, watching his wife's reaction carefully. "I need to take care of some unfinished business at the office." For a split second, something dark crossed Diana's face, an expression he had never noticed before. "But you promised, Alexandra. It would be very rude to cancel at short notice." Clara looked up from her cereal, alternating her gaze between her father and stepmother. Alexandre noticed how her little fingers squeezed the spoon with unnecessary force. "Mrs. Martinez can stay with Clara," Diana insisted, her melodious voice carrying an almost imperceptible note of irritation. "No," Alexandra replied firmly. "I have important matters to attend to." The silence that followed was dense. Diana kept her smile, but her eyes told a different story. After breakfast, Alexandre was preparing to leave when he heard voices coming from the kitchen. He approached silently. "And remember what we talked about, Clara dear." Diana's voice sounded sweet, but with an undertone that made the hairs on the back of Alexandra's neck stand on end. "Some stories are best kept secret, aren't they?" "Yes, Diana," Clara's trembling voice replied. Alexandra stepped back, his heart hammering in his chest. In his office, he made a few discreet calls, first to his private investigator, then to his trusted lawyer, Beatrice Chen. "I need a full background check on Diana Morrison," he instructed the investigator. "Everything, from kindergarten until yesterday." For Beatrice, he was more specific. "I need to know about legal precedents in cases of, well, delicate family situations, and I want everything in strict confidence." In the afternoon, while pretending to work, Alexandra watched from his office window. Diana was strolling through the garden with Clara, an apparently idyllic picture of stepmother and stepdaughter. But now he noticed the details, how Clara always kept a calculated distance, how her shoulders tensed when Diana approached. The phone rang. It was the investigator. "Mr. Winters, I've found something interesting. Diana Morrison doesn't exist before 2019. Her real name is—" A knock on the door interrupted the conversation. Diana entered without waiting for an answer. Alexandra quickly hung up. "Who was that, dear?" she asked, approaching his desk. "Just business," he replied, keeping his tone casual. "How was your walk with Clara?" "Wonderful. You know, I was thinking, Clara is very attached to that housekeeper. Maybe it's time for a change. I know an excellent professional who could—" "No," cut Alexandra off, more abruptly than he had intended. "Mrs. Martinez has been with us for years. Clara trusts her." Diana tilted her head, studying him. "You look different, Alexandra. Has something happened?" "Why do you ask?" "Just an observation," she replied, heading for the door. On the threshold, she stopped. "Sometimes, dear, it's better to leave things as they are. Change can be unsettling." After she left, Alexandra remained motionless, absorbing what seemed like a veiled threat. His phone vibrated. A message from the investigator. "Important file attachment. I recommend caution." The rest of the afternoon dragged on in palpable tension. During dinner, Alexandra observed how Diana carried on an apparently normal conversation, but her gestures seemed rehearsed, like an actress in a well-decorated play. Clara barely touched her food, her green eyes, so similar to Catherine's, occasionally meeting her father's in a silent plea for help. After putting Clara to bed, Alexandra returned to the office. He opened the file sent by the investigator and, as he read, he felt his blood run cold. Diana Morrison was formerly Diana Blackwood. There were records of 2 other families, 2 other marriages, 2 other children who— A noise in the corridor made him quickly close his laptop. Soft footsteps approached. "Still working, darling?" Diana appeared in the doorway, wearing a silk nightgown. "You need to rest." "I'll be right there," he replied, trying to keep his voice steady. As he climbed the stairs with Diana, Alexandre thought of Clara, sleeping in the room next to his. He needed to protect her, but first, he needed to understand exactly what he was fighting against. That night, lying next to Diana, Alexandre stayed awake, his body tense, his mind racing with ever darker possibilities. Next to him, Diana slept, or pretended to sleep, her serene face like a perfect mask, hiding secrets that he was beginning to dread discovering. The office of the private investigator, Maxwell Reed, was in a discreet building in the city center. Alexander adjusted the collar of his overcoat as he climbed the stairs, having left his car a few blocks behind to avoid being recognized. "Mr. Winters," Maxwell greeted him with a firm handshake. The middle-aged man, with his thin-rimmed glasses and gray hair, emanated an aura of discreet competence. "I have some information you need to see." Maxwell opened a folder on his desk. "Diana Blackwood, born Diana Reynolds, not to be confused with the Reynolds in your social circle. She legally changed her name in 2019, but I was able to trace her history." Alexander picked up the first photograph. Diana, a few years younger, next to a distinguished-looking man and a girl of around 10. "Richard Bennett, pharmaceutical entrepreneur, first husband," explained Maxwell. "Marriage lasted 14 months. His daughter, Lily, was sent to boarding school in Switzerland soon after the wedding. The curious thing is that the girl never returned. Records indicate that she is still there, even after her father's death." Death? Alexander felt a chill. Car accident. Diana inherited a considerable sum. Maxwell slid another document across the table. The second marriage was to Thomas Crawford. Similar story. Widower, a young daughter, significant fortune. The marriage lasted 18 months. His daughter was also sent to boarding school, this time in England. And Crawford? Accidental drug overdose. Diana, again, was the main beneficiary. Alexander closed his eyes, feeling the weight of the revelations. "The girls. Have you been able to contact them?" "Lily Bennett refuses to talk about it. The Crawford's daughter, Charlotte, is in psychiatric treatment. She can't even hear Diana's name without having a crisis." One detail in the photo caught Alexander's eye. On Diana's wrist, a delicate bracelet with a butterfly pendant, the same one she was wearing now. "There's more," Maxwell continued, his voice deep. "We found records of psychiatric consultations from before 2019. Diana was diagnosed with—" Alexandra's cell phone vibrated, interrupting the conversation. It was a message from Mrs. Martinez. "Señor, you need to come back. Clara has a high fever. I have to go." Alexandra stood up abruptly. "Send me the rest by email. I use my personal account, not the corporate one." On the way home, Alexandra could barely concentrate on driving. The pieces of the puzzle began to fit together, forming a terrifying picture. The other girls, the boarding schools, the accidental deaths. When she got home, she found Diana in Clara's room, sitting on the edge of the bed, wiping the girl's forehead with a damp cloth. "Daddy," Clara called weakly, her eyes shining with fever. "I've already given the antipyretic," Diana informed her, her voice brimming with concern. The fever started out of nowhere. Alexandra noticed a half-empty glass of water on the bedside table. Something in his memory alerted him. The file mentioned something about medication in the Crawford case. "I'll take Clara to the hospital," he decided. "Don't get carried away, darling. It's just a fever." "Even so," he insisted, picking Clara up. The little girl was too hot. At the hospital, tests revealed a severe allergic reaction. "Did she eat anything different today?" asked the doctor. "Not that I know of," replied Alexandra, watching Clara sleep, now properly medicated. Back in the hospital room, Alexandra found Mrs. Martinez waiting. "Señor," she whispered, "I found this in the little girl's room." She showed him an empty bottle of cough syrup. It was new. It was full yesterday. Alexandra felt his stomach turn. "Who gave it to her?" "La Señora Diana said Clara was coughing." A movement at the door interrupted the conversation. Diana was there, her face a perfect mask of maternal concern. "How is she, dear?" "Better," Alexandra replied, trying to control his voice. "Much better now." That night, while Diana slept on the sofa in the hospital room, Alexandra watched his daughter breathe peacefully. His phone vibrated. An email from Maxwell with the rest of the file. The words jumped off the screen. Personality disorder, manipulative behavior, sociopathic tendencies. The last line of the report was the most disturbing. Current whereabouts of the other children, unknown. School records interrupted after hospitalization. Alexandra looked at Clara, then at the sleeping Diana. The bracelet with the butterfly flickered on his wrist under the fluorescent light of the hospital. That symbol, once so delicate, now looked like a sinister mark, a pattern that repeated itself in a macabre story. His phone vibrated again. A message from Beatrice Chen. I got the precautionary measures you asked for. We can act whenever you want. Alexandra replied with a single word. Tomorrow. The night dragged on, each minute weighing like lead. Alexandra remained vigilant, his eyes alternating between his sleeping daughter and the woman on the sofa, the woman he had brought into his home, close to his daughter, without knowing that he was inviting a nightmare dressed up as a dream. The morning light found Alexandra still sitting in the hospital chair, his eyes red from a sleepless night. Clara was sleeping peacefully, her temperature finally normalized. Diana had gone out to pick up some clean clothes at home, a pretext that Alexandre pretended to accept. Senor Winters, Mrs. Martinez quietly entered the room. In her hands, she held a cup of coffee and a brown folder. I found this in Senora Diana's office, hidden behind the books. Alexandra opened the folder with trembling hands. Inside, he found documents relating to his bank accounts, partially completed powers of attorney, and, what made his blood run cold, registration forms for a boarding school in Switzerland. There's more, whispered the housekeeper, glancing nervously at the door. La pequeña Clara. She told me about the nightmares, about Diana coming into her room at night, whispering things. A soft moan interrupted the conversation. Clara was waking up. Daddy, she called, her voice still weak. I'm here, princess. Alexandra held her small hand between his. How are you feeling? Better, Clara replied. Then her eyes widened. Diana, is she coming back? Don't worry about that now. Alexandra tried to smile, but his heart was heavy. Mrs. Martinez, can you stay with her for a moment? I need to make some calls. In the hospital corridor, Alexandra first called Beatrice Chen. The documents are ready, the lawyer informed him. Emergency restraining order, based on the evidence we've collected. I can file it as soon as you authorize. She then called Maxwell Reed. I found more information about her past, said the investigator. Before she was Diana Reynolds, she was known as Victoria Palmer. There are records of psychiatric hospitalization under that name. The diagnosis is disturbing. I need everything documented, Alexander instructed. And Maxwell, she should be back in hospital soon. Can you send someone to monitor her? Back in the bedroom, Alexandre found Clara more awake, eating Jell-O while Mrs. Martinez arranged the pillows. Daddy, Clara called, her voice firmer. Can I tell you something? Alexandre sat on the edge of the bed. Of course, my love. Diana, she said she was going to send me somewhere far away. She said it would be better for everyone. Tears began to roll down the girl's face. She said that you had already agreed, that you didn't want me around anymore. Alexandra felt a wave of anger so intense that he had to take several deep breaths before replying. Clara, look at me. That will never happen. You're the most important person in my life. A movement at the door made everyone turn around. Diana was there, a bag of clothes in one hand and her perfectly rehearsed smile on her face. How is our little patient? She asked, advancing into the room. Alexandra noticed how Clara instantly winced, how her fingers tightened on the blanket. Mrs. Martinez discreetly positioned herself between the bed and Diana. Diana, Alexandra kept his voice controlled. Can we talk outside? In the hallway, away from Clara's ears, Diana began. Darling, I was thinking, maybe we should consider that school in Switzerland I mentioned. After that health scare, how did the cough syrup get to her room? Interrupted Alexander, watching his wife's reaction carefully. For a split second, something dark flashed across Diana's face. What a strange question, dear. She was coughing, so… No, she wasn't. He cut in. And that particular syrup contains a component that Clara is allergic to. It's recorded in all her medical records. Diana's smile faltered slightly. It must have been a mistake by the pharmacy. How was it a mistake with Charlotte Crawford? Diana froze. Her face, and for a moment, transformed into something unrecognizable, something cold and calculating that Alexander had never seen before. I don't know what you're talking about, she replied, her voice now metallic. I think you do, Victoria. Or do you prefer Diana? How many names have you used? The hospital corridor seemed to drop in temperature by several degrees. Diana, or Victoria, took a step towards him, her face a mask of controlled fury. You don't understand, she hissed. I'm doing this for everyone's sake. Those girls, they were in the way. Just like Clara is in the way. Mrs. Blackwood? A deep voice interrupted the moment. Two policemen were approaching, accompanied by Beatrice Chen. Alexandra, what is it? Diana tried to recover her sweet tone, but her eyes betrayed panic. Restraining order, Beatrice replied, handing over the documents. You are forbidden to go near Alexandra Winters and his daughter Clara. You can't do that. Diana advanced towards Alexandra, but the policeman restrained her. She's mine now. Just like the others were. Her scream echoed down the corridor, causing nurses and patients to turn around in shock. Diana struggled, her face distorted into a mask of hatred. The other children! Alexandre approached, his voice trembling with restrained anger. Where are they? The smile Diana gave in response made his blood run cold. Where they can't be in the way anymore, she whispered, before being led away by the policeman. Back in the bedroom, Clara was sitting on the bed, clinging to Mrs. Martinez. Is she gone, Daddy? Yes, Princess. Alexandra hugged his daughter. She'll never come near you again. But as he held Clara, Alexandra knew that this was only the beginning. The echo of Diana's words about the other children weighed heavily on his conscience. There was more to discover, more to resolve. The bracelet with the butterfly had fallen to the floor during the confusion. Alexander picked it up, looking at the delicate pendant that now seemed to symbolize not beauty, but metamorphosis, Diana's ability to change shape, name, life, leaving destruction in her wake. Rain pelted the windows of Maxwell Reed's office as Alexander examined the photographs spread out on the table. Each image told a fragment of Diana's dark story, or Victoria, or whatever her real name was. The pattern is always the same, Maxwell explained, pointing at the photos. She chooses successful widowers with young daughters, gains their trust, marries quickly, and then the children start disappearing, Alexander added, his voice laced with bitterness. We managed to locate Lily Bennett, Maxwell continued, pulling out a file. She's willing to talk, but only in person. She's living in London. Alexandre checked his watch. It was almost time to pick Clara up from school. After the incident at the hospital, he didn't trust anyone else with this task, not even Mrs. Martinez. Book the tickets, he decided. Clara and I are going to London. I need to understand exactly what we're fighting against. His phone vibrated. A message from an unknown number. I miss our little family. Clara must be missing me too. Alexandra felt a shiver run down his spine. Diana is violating the restraining order, commented Maxwell, who had read the message over Alexander's shoulder. That's good for our case, but worrying for her safety. At Clara's school, Alexandra found his daughter chatting animatedly with a new friend in the playground. Since Diana's departure, it was as if a weight had been lifted from the girl's shoulders. She was back to being the cheerful, lively child she had always been. Daddy? Clara ran to hug him. Can I go to Madison's on Saturday? We'll talk about it at home, Princess. We have a trip to plan. In the car, Alexandre watched his daughter through the rearview mirror. How had Diana managed to hurt so many children before? How had no one noticed? At home, while Clara was doing her homework under Mrs. Martinez's supervision, Alexandra received a call from Beatrice. We've discovered something disturbing, said the lawyer. Diana had a daughter a long time ago. The child died in mysterious circumstances when she was 6. Alexandre felt his stomach turn. How? Officially, it was a domestic accident, but there are police records that suggest, well, that maybe it wasn't accidental. That night, after putting Clara to bed, Alexandra found an old box in the back of his closet. Inside were photographs of Catherine, newspaper clippings about her accident, the police report that had never made much sense. His phone rang. It was Maxwell. Mr. Winters, you need to see this. I cross-referenced your wife's accident data with Diana's records. She was in the same city at the time, using the name Victoria Palmer. Alexander dropped the phone. Diana's words from the hospital echoed in his mind. I do this for everyone's sake. A noise in the hallway made him stand up abruptly. Mrs. Martinez was standing in the doorway. Pale. Senor, I found this in the garden. She held out a folded piece of paper stained with rain. Inside, a message cut out from magazines. All mothers deserve a second chance. Call the police, ordered Alexandre, rushing into Clara's room. The girl was sleeping peacefully, but on the window was a butterfly drawn in the condensation, identical to the pendant Diana always wore. "The police are on their way," said Mrs. Martinez. "And so is the investigator." Alexandra couldn't take his eyes off the drawing on the window. How had Diana gotten so close without being noticed? The security system was active. The guards were making regular rounds. Maxwell arrived before the police. "She's playing with you," he said, examining the drawing. "She wants you to know that you can approach her whenever you want." "But why? Why do all this?" "The psychiatric report we found might explain it." Maxwell opened his folder. After the death of her daughter, Diana developed an obsession with fixing families. In her mind, she's saving these girls from their parents, just as she couldn't save her own daughter. The police arrived, photographed the drawing and reinforced security. But Alexandre knew that bars and alarms wouldn't stop Diana. She was like the butterfly he used as a symbol, capable of transforming, of infiltrating the smallest spaces. Sitting beside Clara's bed, Alexandra made a decision. London wouldn't just be a trip to find Lily Bennett. It would be the start of an escape. He and Clara had to disappear before Diana found them. His phone vibrated again. Another message from the unknown number. "You can't protect her forever, Alexandra. All butterflies have to leave the cocoon someday." On the bed, Clara moved restlessly, as if she could feel the tension in the air. Alexandra held her small hand, silently vowing that he would not let Diana hurt his daughter as she had hurt the others. But a doubt was eating away at him. What if Diana had been involved in Catherine's death? What if this whole nightmare had started much earlier than he had imagined? The rain continued to fall outside, washing the butterfly design off the window, but not the questions that now haunted Alexander. Somewhere in the city, Diana was planning her next move, and he knew he had to be one step ahead to protect what he loved most. London Heathrow International Airport was buzzing with activity as Alexander and Clara disembarked after a tense 12-hour flight. With every passing face, Alexander looked for signs of Diana, his nerves on edge. "Daddy, why have we come to London?" asked Clara, clutching his hand as they walked through the terminal. "We're going to find someone who can help us, Princess," he replied, checking for the 10th time that the disposable cell phone he had bought still worked. The old one had been left in the United States, following Maxwell's instructions. In the arrivals hall, a woman in her 30s was waiting for them, holding a discreet sign with the surname Williams, the temporary identity they were using. "Mr. Williams?" she approached, her voice carrying a slight British accent. "I'm Lily Bennett." Alexander studied her face, looking for traces of the girl in the photographs. Her brown eyes held a shadow of fear that he recognized, the same fear he sometimes saw in Clara's eyes. In the car, as they drove to a hotel on the outskirts of the city, Lily finally began to speak. She came like a dream. Her voice trembled slightly. "After my mother died, Dad was so lost. Diana seemed perfect, until Clara had fallen asleep in the back seat, exhausted from the journey." Alexandra covered her with his coat before encouraging Lily to continue. "It started with little things, broken objects, missing toys. She said I was clumsy, that I was lying to get attention. Then came the accidents." At the hotel, after settling Clara in, Alexandra and Lily sat in the small cafe in the lobby. The London rain beat down on the windows, creating a liquid curtain that isolated them from the outside world. "She poisoned my food little by little," Lily continued, her hands shaking as she held her cup of tea. "Nothing lethal, just enough to keep me sick. She convinced my father that I needed special treatment at a boarding school in Switzerland. And your father? The car accident was no accident." Lily lowered her voice. "I tried to warn him, but no one would believe a disturbed child." Alexander felt a chill. "You said you had information about Catherine, my wife." Lily opened her bag, taking out a yellowed envelope. "I found this among Diana's things, before she was sent to boarding school. They're photos of your wife, taken weeks before the accident. The photographs showed Catherine at different times, leaving work, picking Clara up from school, shopping, all taken from a distance, without her realizing it. Diana was stalking her," Alexandra concluded, his voice hoarse. "She plans everything meticulously," Lily explained. "She chooses her victims in advance, studies their habits, waits for the perfect moment." A shout from the bedroom interrupted the conversation. "Clara!" Alexander ran, his heart pounding. In the bedroom, Clara was struggling on the bed, trapped in a nightmare. "No, Diana, no. Princess, wake up!" Alexandre shook her gently. "It was just a dream." Clara opened her eyes, tears streaming down her face. She was here, Daddy. She said she was going to take me. No one will take her away, he promised, hugging her tightly. Lily watched from the doorway, her face pale. She has the same nightmares I used to have. That night, as Clara finally slept more peacefully, Alexander and Lily continued their conversation in low voices. There are others, Lily revealed. I've managed to get in touch with a few. Charlotte Crawford is in a psychiatric clinic in Manchester, and there are rumors about other girls, some who have simply disappeared. How does she manage to escape justice? She never leaves any concrete evidence, and when the authorities start to get suspicious, Lily hesitated. She changes her identity, her city, sometimes even her country, like a butterfly, always changing. Alexandra's disposable phone vibrated. A message from Maxwell. Diana has left the USA. Fake passport detected in Paris. She's getting closer, murmured Alexandra. You need to understand something. Lily gripped his arm tightly. Diana isn't just a common criminal. She really believes she's saving these girls. In her mind, she's doing the parents a favor, freeing them from their daughters. Like she did with her own daughter, Alexandra added, remembering the report. Exactly. And now? Lily looked at the sleeping Clara. Now she's fixated on you. She won't give up easily. A clap of thunder rattled the hotel windows, making Clara stir restlessly in bed. Alexandra watched his daughter, so small and vulnerable, and felt the weight of responsibility crush his chest. What do we do now? He asked. We keep moving, Lily replied. I have safe contacts in Scotland. We can... Another clap of thunder. Closer. The hotel lights flickered on and off. In the sudden darkness, Alexandra heard Lily hold her breath. This is no coincidence, she whispered. Somewhere in the hotel, a door slammed. Footsteps echoed in the corridor. Daddy, Clara called out, waking up to the noise. Shh! Alexandra picked her up, moving silently towards the back door that Lily had insisted on checking earlier. In the dark corridor, footsteps approached. And then, soft as a breeze, a familiar voice began to sing a lullaby. The darkness of the hotel was cut only by the occasional flash of lightning, which cast distorted shadows on the walls. Alexandra held Clara tightly against his chest, while Lily led them up a service staircase. This way, she whispered, her voice barely audible over the sound of the storm. The lullaby still echoed through the corridors, ever closer. Hush, little baby, don't say a word. Daddy! Clara trembled in his arms. It's her. They reached the basement of the hotel, a maze of maintenance corridors. Lily seemed to know the way. I always have an escape route, she had explained earlier, the trauma evident in her voice. A metallic noise above them made everyone freeze. Diana was on the stairs. Alexandra, her melodious voice drifted down the stairwell. Why are you running away? You know I only want what's best for our family. Lily gestured frantically towards an emergency door. On the other side, the London rain beat down on a narrow alleyway. You have to understand, Diana continued, her voice closer now. All those girls, I freed them, just as I freed my own daughter from the suffering of this cruel world. Alexander felt his blood run cold. The confession they had been looking for, delivered like a macabre gift. Come on, urged Lily, pushing open the door. The cold night air hit them like a slap. Clara buried her face in her father's neck, shivering, from cold or fear. It was impossible to tell. Ah, Lily, Diana's voice sounded dangerously close. What a disappointment. After all the trouble I went through to give you a new life. They ran down the slippery alley, the rain soaking their clothes. Lily led the way towards a busier street. There, she pointed to an approaching cab, but before they could reach it, a figure emerged from the shadows. Diana, her dark dress sticking to her body because of the rain, was blocking the way. This obsession with keeping the children close. She shook her head like a disappointed teacher. Don't you understand that it only hurts them? Look at Catherine. She would never let Clara go, so you killed her, Alexander added, his voice shaking with anger. Diana smiled, a smile that didn't reach her eyes. I freed her, just like I freed all of them, just as I'm going to free Clara. You're sick, Lily stepped forward. We need to put an end to this. Sick? Diana laughed, a high-pitched artificial sound. I'm the only one who sees the truth. Parents and children, this sick bond that only brings pain. A new flash of lightning illuminated the scene. revealing something metallic in Diana's hand, a syringe. Just a little sleep. She took a step towards them. Clara will wake up in a better place, away from this toxic addiction. Alexandra stepped back, protecting Clara. Lily, meanwhile, stepped forward. Enough, she shouted. You're not going to hurt anyone else. The sound of sirens cut through the night. Headlights illuminated the alleyway from both ends. Police, freeze! Diana looked around, frightened. Her previously controlled face contorted into a mask of fury. You don't understand. She advanced towards Alexander and Clara. I'm the only one who can save them. Lily threw herself at her, knocking over the syringe. The two women fell to the wet sidewalk, struggling. Now! Shouted Lily. Alexandre ran towards the cars, Clara safe in his arms. Armed officers ran past him, converging on Diana. No! Her scream echoed through the alley. You can't stop me. All the butterflies have to fly. In the police car, Clara finally lifted her face from her father's neck. Is it over? She asked in a whisper. Alexandre watched through the window as Diana was handcuffed, her face a mixture of fury and despair. Lily was with the policeman, giving her statement. Yes, princess. He kissed the top of his daughter's head. It's over. But even as Diana was being put into the car, her gaze met Alexander's through the rain. There was something there. Not regret, not remorse, but a disturbing certainty. As if, even handcuffed, she still had one last trick up her sleeve. Mr. Winters, a detective approached the car. We need you to come to the police station. We found something in her hotel room. Alexander looked at Clara, now sleeping exhausted in his arms, then at Lily, who nodded that she would stay with the girl. The night wasn't over yet, and something told him that Diana's darkest secrets were yet to come. Take me there, he said to the detective, handing Clara gently into Lily's care. The rain continued to fall, washing the blood from the sidewalk where Diana and Lily had fought. But some stains are impossible to clean. Alexander knew that the ghosts of that night would haunt them for a long time. The London police station was an imposing Victorian building, its dark brick walls glistening in the persistent rain. Alexander followed Detective Blackwood through the silent corridors, leaving a trail of water in his wake. What have you found? He asked, his voice hoarse with exhaustion. The detective stopped in front of an evidence room. You'd better see for yourself. Inside the room, on a metal table, was an old box. A blue butterfly was painted on the lid, identical to the pendant Diana always wore. This was in her room, explained Blackwood, opening the box carefully. The contents made Alexander stagger. Photographs, dozens of them, organized chronologically. Catherine at different times in her life, long before her accident. Clara as a baby, sleeping in her crib. Photos he had never seen before. And other girls. So many others. Do you recognize any of them? Asked the detective. Alexandra went through the photos one by one, his stomach churning. This is Lily as a child. And this must be Charlotte Crawford. Then he stopped, his hands shaking. Wait, this is her daughter, Blackwood added. Sophia, killed 15 years ago in suspicious circumstances. The photo showed a small girl, no more than 6 years old, with the same piercing eyes as Diana. She was smiling at the camera, holding a toy butterfly. There's more, said the detective, pulling a black-covered diary out of the box. The pages were filled with Diana's elegant handwriting, each entry revealing more horrors from her troubled mind. Sophia doesn't understand that I need to save her. This world is too cruel for pure souls like her. Tonight, I'm going to set her free. Catherine Winters suspects something. I can see it in her eyes when she watches me in the park with Clara. She's an obstacle that needs to be removed. Clara is special, different from the others. She will be my masterpiece, my last transformation. Alexandra closed the diary, unable to continue reading. Why are you showing me this? Because, Blackwood hesitated. Diana escaped. The world seemed to freeze. What? During transportation to prison, the car was found empty, the policeman unconscious. She had an accomplice. Alexandra was already running for the exit, his cell phone in his hand. Lily, pick up. Lily's sleepy voice finally answered. Alexandra? Diana's run away. Where's Clara? Sleeping next to me in the hotel. We changed rooms as agreed. There are 2 policemen at the door and... A sound of breaking glass interrupted the sentence. Then screams, Lily! Lily! The line went silent. Alexander ran into the street, Detective Blackwood at his heels. The rain was now a deluge, turning the streets of London into rivers. In the new hotel, 3 blocks from the police station, the scene was chaotic. The 2 policemen were lying in the corridor, unconscious but alive. The door to the room had been broken down. Inside, the room was empty. The broken window let the rain in, soaking the carpet. On the unmade bed, a single blue paper butterfly. "She planned the whole thing," muttered Blackwood, surveying the scene. The accomplice, the escape, everything. Alexandra picked up the paper butterfly. There was something written on the back. "Every chrysalis must break for the butterfly to fly. Come and get your little butterfly, Alexandra. You know where." "The boarding school," he whispered. "In Switzerland. That's where she always takes them. I'm going to call Interpol," Blackwood began. But Alexandra interrupted him. "There's no time. She'll do to Clara what she did to Sophia." His phone vibrated. A message from an unknown number. A video. In it, Clara was sleeping peacefully in an airplane seat, while a hand with a familiar butterfly bracelet stroked her hair. "We have to go now." Alexandre grabbed the detective's arm. "How long until we get to Switzerland?" "A 2-hour flight, if we can get a plane now." "And Lily?" "Medical teams are with her. She'll survive." Alexander looked out of the broken window, the London rain mixing with his tears of anger and fear. Somewhere over the English Channel, his daughter was in the hands of a woman who believed that death was a form of liberation. "Hang in there, Clara," he whispered into the night. "Dad's going." The detective was already on the phone, organizing the operation, but Alexandra was barely listening. In his mind, he saw Sophia's smile in the photograph, so similar to Clara's, and he swore his daughter wouldn't have it. And he vowed that his daughter would not suffer the same fate. The storm roared outside, as if the sky itself shared his anguish. The race against time had begun. The helicopter cut through the night over the Swiss Alps, its propellers struggling against the storm that seemed to be chasing them all the way from London. Alexander, tense next to Detective Blackwood, watched the distant lights of the St. Marguerite boarding school appear between the clouds. "Are we too late?" The question that had plagued him throughout the flight finally escaped his lips. "Diana's cell phone tracking shows that she arrived less than an hour ago," replied Blackwood, checking his tablet. "The local teams have already surrounded the perimeter." The boarding school was an imposing Gothic building, its towers rising against the night sky like accusing fingers. Through the documents found in the hotel room, they discovered that Diana had owned the place for years, using different identities. "This is where it all ends," murmured Alexandra. "Where she brought them all." The helicopter landed in a nearby field, where police cars were already in position. A Swiss officer approached them as soon as they landed. "We detected movement on the 3rd floor," she said in precise English. "The old wing where the infirmary used to be." Alexander felt his blood run cold. The infirmary, where, according to the records, Sophia had spent her last moments. "Let's go in," decided Blackwood, handing out bulletproof vests. "Teams at the back and the main entrance. Winters, you stay." "I'll go with you," Alexander cut in, already putting on his vest. "That's my daughter inside." The interior of the boarding school was a maze of dark corridors and creaking stairs. The air smelled musty and abandoned. The place had been officially closed for years, serving only as a front for Diana's plans. On the 3rd floor, the beams of the lanterns revealed numbered doors and faded signs in French. The infirmary was at the end of the corridor, its double doors marked by a peeling red cross. A low sound reached them, a lullaby, the same one Diana sang in the alley in London. "Daddy?" Clara's voice, weak and frightened, made Alexander take a step forward, but Blackwood held him back. "It could be a trap," whispered the detective. "Of course it's a trap," Alexander replied. "But what choice do I have?" He pushed open the infirmary doors. The large room was lit only by the moonlight coming through the high windows. Old beds formed ghostly rows, and in the center, "Welcome to our little family reunion." Diana was sitting in an old chair, Clara asleep in her arms. "Don't worry, she's just sleeping, for now." "It's over, Diana." Alexander stepped forward, noticing the policeman standing silently in the shadows. "There's no way out." "Way out." She laughed softly. "You still don't understand, do you? This was never about escape. It's about liberation." She stood up, still holding Clara. The moonlight revealed something in her other hand, a syringe. "Do you know what this is?" she asked, holding up the syringe. "The same one I used on Sophia. On all of them. A gentle, painless sleep, like the flight of a butterfly. Your own daughter. Alexander felt the bile rise in his throat. How could you? Because I loved her. Diana's scream echoed through the ward. I loved her too much to let her suffer in this cruel world. Like I loved all of them. As I love Clara. That's not love. Alexandra took another step. It's sickness. It's obsession. No. Diana pressed the syringe against Clara's neck. It's salvation. Catherine understood in the end, you know. When the car lost control. When she realized that she could no longer trap Clara in this limited existence. You were there. Watching. As I always do. Making sure the job gets done. Clara began to stir, her eyes blinking in confusion. Daddy? I'm here, princess. Alexandra kept his voice steady, even though his heart was racing. It's going to be all right. Don't lie to her. Diana squeezed Clara tighter. Nothing ever is. Not in this world. But I can fix it. I can set her free. Just like I set all of them free. The other girls. Alexandra had to keep her talking as the police approached. Where are they, Diana? A serene smile crossed her face. Flying. They're all flying free now. In the garden. The butterfly garden, added Blackwood, emerging from the shadows. We found the bodies. All of them. Diana didn't seem surprised. So you understand. They understand that there's no turning back. That there's only one possible ending to this story. She raised the syringe, and everything seemed to happen in slow motion. Clara, suddenly awake, bit down hard on Diana's arm. Diana screamed, releasing the girl. Alexandra lunged forward, grabbing Clara. A gunshot echoed through the infirmary. Diana staggered backwards, the syringe falling from her hand. A red stain was spreading on her dress. No, she mumbled, her eyes fixed on Clara. I just wanted. She fell, her butterfly bracelet clinking against the wooden floor. Clara buried her face in her father's chest, sobbing. Alexandra hugged her tightly, his own tears mixing with his daughter's hair. It's over, he whispered. It's really over now. But as the policeman moved around, as the sirens cut through the night outside, Alexandra knew that some shadows never completely disappear. On the ground next to Diana's body, the butterfly from her bracelet fluttered in the moonlight, a final reminder of the terrible price of obsession disguised as love. 3 months after the events at Saint Marguerite's boarding school, Alexandra watched Clara playing in the garden of their new home on the outskirts of Boston. Autumn painted the trees red and gold, and his daughter ran after the leaves that the wind carried away, her laughter echoing like music. She's recovering well, commented Dr. Sarah Chen, the child therapist who had been accompanying them since their return to the United States. The sessions have shown significant progress. Alexandra nodded, noticing how Clara now played without constantly looking over her shoulder, without cringing at every shadow. The nightmares have diminished. And yours? Asked Sarah, always perceptive. He didn't answer immediately. The nights were still difficult, filled with images of Diana, the boarding school, the macabre discoveries in the butterfly garden. The investigation had revealed the full extent of Diana's crimes. 17 bodies were found in the grounds of the boarding school, each one carefully buried under flower beds that attracted butterflies. Some of the victims dated back more than a decade. Mr. Winters, Lily Bennett appeared at the garden gate, leaning on a cane, a sequel to her fight with Diana in London. I've brought the documents you asked for. Since the incident, Lily had become a constant presence in their lives. Her experience as a survivor of Diana made her a valuable ally in Clara's healing process. These are the last records from the boarding school, she explained, handing over a folder. And we found this among Diana's things. It was a pen drive, small and silver, with a butterfly engraved on it. It's already been analyzed by the police, Lily continued. Their videos, diaries, including the day Catherine died, Alexandra added, feeling the weight of the device in his hand. Clara came running up to them, her cheeks flushed by the cold wind. Aunt Lily, have you come for tea? Of course, Pequeña, smiled Lily, using the nickname she had learned from Mrs. Martinez, who now lived with them in Boston. While the two of them went inside, Alexandra remained in the garden with Sarah. You don't have to watch, the therapist said softly. Sometimes, some doors are better left closed. I need to know, he replied. For Catherine, for all of them. That night, after Clara had fallen asleep, Alexander sat in his office and inserted the USB stick into his computer. The files were organized by date. The video for March 15, 2021 began to play. Diana spoke into the camera. "Catherine is getting suspicious. Today in the supermarket, she was watching me while I was talking to Clara. Her eyes, those same eyes that Clara inherited. There's something in them that tells me she knows. Like my Sophia knew in the end." Alexandra moved on to the video of the day of the accident. Diana was filming from inside a car. "It's today. The device is already installed on the brakes. When Catherine takes that bend on the coast road, it'll be quick, clear, a release for her and for Clara. Poor Catherine, so blinded by her possessive love that she can't see she's suffocating our little butterfly." He closed the laptop abruptly, nausea rising in his throat. The sound of small footsteps made him turn around. Clara was standing in the doorway, her stuffed rabbit pressed against her chest. "Nightmare, Daddy." Alexandra opened his arms and she ran to him. "Do you want to talk about it?" Clara hesitated, then, "I dreamt about Mom." She was smiling. She said she was proud of me for being strong. Alexandre felt tears well up in his eyes. "She is, Princess. She is. Diana's not coming back, is she?" Clara's voice was small, vulnerable. "No, my love. She can't hurt anyone anymore. Diana had died that night at boarding school, taking with her a web of secrets and obsessions, but her legacy of pain persisted, echoing in the lives she had touched. "Can I sleep here with you?" asked Clara. "Of course." Alexander settled her on the office sofa, covering her with a blanket. As his daughter fell asleep, he looked at the USB stick on the table. There were more videos, more dark revelations. But that night, looking at Clara finally sleeping peacefully, Alexandra decided that some answers could wait. Outside, the autumn wind stirred the trees. A single nocturnal butterfly fluttered against the window, its dark wings visible against the glass for a moment before disappearing into the darkness. Alexandra closed the curtains. The past would always be there, its shadows ready to haunt. But the future belonged to them, to this new life they were building, one day at a time. Clara sighed in her sleep, a soft, confident sound. And for the first time in a long time, Alexandra felt that maybe, just maybe, they really were starting to fly free. A year had passed since the events at Sainte Marguerite boarding school. The house in Boston was blooming with the arrival of spring, the garden that Clara and Mrs. Martinez had cultivated together bursting into color. Alexandre watched his daughter through the office window, now 8, teaching her new friend Emma how to plant daisies. The contrast between the Clara of now and the frightened little girl of a year ago was remarkable. "The nightmares have completely stopped," commented Dr. Sarah Chen, who still visited them regularly. "And she's talking more about Catherine." "Yes." Alexandra smiled slightly. "Last night she asked me to tell her stories about when she was a baby, about things she and her mother did together." The phone rang. It was Lily Bennett, now living in New York, where she coordinated a foundation to support traumatized children. "We've found one more," she said without preamble. "A survivor of Diana, from before Sophia. She wants to talk." Alexandra felt his stomach turn. Even a year later, each new discovery about Diana brought up complex emotions. Who? Margaret Wilson. She was 6 years old when Diana, then using the name Victoria, married her father. She managed to escape before... Lily paused. Before Diana could complete her liberation ritual. In the garden, Clara was laughing at something Emma had said. The sound of her laughter, once so rare, now filled the house regularly. "What does she want to tell you?" "She has information about Sophia," Lily replied. "About what really happened." Alexandre looked at his desk drawer, where he still kept the USB stick with Diana's videos. Some he had never managed to watch to the end. "I'm going to New York," he decided. "But first..." "Daddy!" Clara came running into the office, her hands dirty with dirt. "Look what we found in the garden." In her small palms, a green and gold chrysalis. "It's a monarch," she explained, proud of her knowledge. "Mrs. Martinez says it's going to turn into a beautiful butterfly." For a moment, Alexander felt his heart stop. Butterflies were still a delicate subject, a symbol tainted by the horrors of the past. But Clara smiled, her eyes, so like Catherine's, shining with genuine excitement. "Can we make a special house for her?" she asked. "To protect her while she grows up." "Of course, Princess," he replied, realizing that perhaps it was time to reframe some symbols. Let's build the safest place in the world for her. That night, after putting Clara to bed, Alexandra sat in his study and finally opened the last video on the USB stick, the one marked only as Sophia. Diana's face filled the screen, younger, less controlled. Sophia knew too much. She saw too much. Like her mother before her, she started asking questions about the accidents, about the other children. She was too much like me. That was the problem. Too perceptive for her own good. Alexandra closed the video. Tomorrow he would go to New York and hear what Margaret Wilson had to say. One more piece of the puzzle would be revealed. But for now, he went to Clara's room. Her daughter was sleeping peacefully. A science book about butterflies opened beside her. In the window, he had installed a small glass house where the chrysalis rested, protected and safe. In a few weeks, a new life would emerge from there. Sometimes, he whispered, remembering Dr. Chen's words, the best way to heal old wounds is to create new memories about them. Outside, the spring night was clear and starry. Somewhere in New York, more answers awaited him. More shadows from the past would be illuminated. But here, in this moment, watching his daughter sleep next to a promise of transformation and rebirth, Alexander felt that they had truly found their way back to the light. The chrysalis glowed softly in the moonlight, holding its own secrets of metamorphosis and renewal. Like Clara, like all of them, it was just waiting for the right moment to spread its wings and fly. If you were in Alexandra's shoes, after discovering the whole truth about Diana and her history of crimes, would you keep the USB stick with the latest videos and evidence, or destroy everything to try and bury the past once and for all? Leave your opinion in the comments. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the story, please subscribe to our channel and leave a comment below, letting us know what you thought. Your feedback and support mean a lot to us. Stay tuned for more exciting stories.